Welcome back once again to my show, Noble by Richa, a leadership podcast. And today we are going to have a very bold conversation and deep dive into some real life stories around the corporate. And today we have Esha Marwah from Dubai with us, and she is going to talk her expertise about the corporate world. So, welcome to the show, Esha.
Thank you so much, Richa, and such a pleasure to see you after so long. And I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Aisha, once again to be a part of our journey. And our audience would love to know about your journey, your professional experience, and later on we can, pass on to the next question.
All right. So, Richa, I have about 18 years of work experience as an HR professional. While I started off my career doing multiple things within HR, specifically in recruitment and campus recruitment, I've had quite a few stints across, and I was exposed to the HR generalist field, as we used to call it early on. And my heart stayed in the HR business partnering field, and that's where I have continued, and that's where my heart has been. So I enjoy being in the space of HR business partnering. Of course, I've worked across multiple organizations and in a fairly diverse environment. So I really learn a lot from those experiences of mine. And on the personal side, I'm a mom of two. I'm also married to an HR professional, and the four of us we live here in Dubai.
That's great and lovely to know about you, Aisha. And moving to the next question, as I have seen and I've worked with you as well, I know about your journey. So, with the global exposure, you have worked with tech, you have worked with shipping and the pharma. So, what is the leadership difference you have noticed among these, industries, and how leadership differentiates with all these, industries?
Yeah. So, Richa, I have worked in industries like the tech. So, I started off my career in an Indian homegrown tech organization, which of course grew into one of the largest multinational companies later on. And then I worked in pharmaceuticals. So, I quickly had to change industries from tech to actually going into factories and science labs, etc. And then I moved to an American company, a very fast paced, very high paced tech product organization. And thereafter, I'm now in logistics, which is a lot more dynamic and a lot more challenging. So, the leadership lessons have also evolved across different industries. I've experienced leadership in very different light across all of the industries and across all of these organizations. But what remains the same is that all these organizations had people. We had human beings, right?
Okay.
And human beings don't change. And what I mean by that is that when we show up in an organization, in any industry, the one leadership principle which stuck with me was authenticity. And what I mean by authenticity is that as leaders, whether it's HR professionals, whether it is business professionals, we show up as being genuine leaders, genuine with people, genuine with our intent, and genuine with the purpose that we work with in whichever organization. So there are quite a few examples from my professional life where I have seen authenticity working across multiple organizations and multiple industries. Um, I can probably quote one, and this was one of my team members early on. I had a fairly large team at that point in time. She was really struggling with her performance. And of course, there were for multiple reasons. There were a lot of stakeholder feedback as well, which came in, which was actually evident that there were some serious performance gaps. So I had to engage in conversations, typical feedback conversations, appraisal conversations, but also some very difficult conversations. And these discussions became quite difficult because my team member then struggled a little bit with awareness on herself. So, what others saw as poor performance or below average performance, she actually thought that as very high performance. And hence, for us to align around that is something which got very difficult, and those conversations were not very pleasant, I would say. Right? We did move to a stage where I had to put her on a performance improvement plan, as we typically would have done in most situations. But she actually took a decision to move on, and she, of course, found another job, and she left the organization not on a very good note, specifically with me. And thereafter, we left at we parted at not so good terms. But 6 months down the line, I got a call from her, and she said, I'm going to ask you for one favor, and you will not say no. And I said, okay, what is it? She said, I want to meet you for coffee. So we met up, we met in Pune, we went across a small coffee shop, and we, of course, forgot all the history when we met. It was as if nothing had happened. And the first thing that she told me was, thank you. And she
Okay.
said thank you for giving her the right feedback, because she had not heard the same feedback from other stakeholders and from other previous managers and team members with whom she had worked with, because of which she was really struggling in seeing the mirror. So all I did, Richa, was helped her see the mirror, helped her understand reality, because I had a genuine interest in her improving her performance, in her understanding what are some of her key strengths, what are some of the shortcomings. And I felt that if I approached the conversation with dishonesty, it wouldn't have served her any purpose. But I did approach that conversation with absolute honesty, with authenticity. So she came back, she thanked me, and today she's doing extremely well in another organization as an HR professional, and we stay in constant touch, and we are almost best friends. So it's really worked for me, and I also advise or counsel a lot of the other senior leaders that I work with to be genuine. And what we must understand, Richa, is that there is a fine line between being genuine, because a lot of people confuse genuineness with being open and transparent, which we also should be. But there are a lot of situations when we cannot be, because we deal with certain situations, with certain decisions which happen behind the scene. But as senior leaders, sometimes we cannot talk about them, and we have to operate a lot of times in the gray, and it's not always black and white. And then my advice to leaders is to distinguish the two. No, authenticity does not mean that you give out all of the information. Authenticity means that you display genuine interest, you display genuine care, and then accordingly, the way you converse and the discussion and the dialogue that you have will appear with the best interest possible. So, for me, that's one leadership principle that has stuck, and it remains the same. So, it does not really differentiate from one industry to another. And with your permission, if I can slip in one more.
Yeah, sure, please. Yes.
Yeah. So the other one for me has been agility and being very pragmatic. And what I really mean by that is, when we work on problems, we work on solutions, it's important to be very open minded and very agile in terms of being able to adapt to the dynamic situations. Also, to be able to adjust your decision making, even if it means that sometimes it might be just the reverse of what others may have chosen to do. So, that's extremely important, that we need to stay a lot more pragmatic, a lot more agile. And that's the other leadership lesson which has stuck all across and it works every single time.
That's great to know. So, on this answer of yours, I want to ask, like, how leadership, takes care of the feedback given to them. Like you said that there was a time when there was a little bit of difference between you and the other person. So, if the team member and the employees are coming to the leadership and giving their the real feedback that no, we are not liking maybe your behavior or anything for that matter, how leadership tackles that the emotional balance of the employee, or how they hold back their emotion. They know
Yeah.
that they cannot show their anger and they have to be neutral. So I want to understand from your point of view that how you did or how the leadership does.
Yeah. So for me, Richa, the one word is balance. And balance is not just balance in the mind, but also emotional balance. Just yesterday, I did a session with my leadership team around the energy dimensions, which means that as leaders, we need to make sure that we maintain a balance across all of our energy, whether it is physical energy, it is mental energy, emotional energy, and also spiritual. And spiritual in a work context means attaching yourself to the purpose of the organization, right? So, just yesterday, we had a conversation about how, as leaders, we need to maintain that balance across all of those dimensions. So, a typical conversation where somebody would approach a senior leader or to me around a certain situation which they're unhappy about, the first response has to be that of empathy and staying absolutely open. Again, open not just for the sake of giving, of hearing, but the sake of actually listening and staying open in mind to really understand what is the concern that this person is bringing forward. So that's extremely important. And then empathy is the second most important, because today, while the colleague may be coming and speaking up to another leader, at some point in time, that colleague could have been you, or maybe in the
Yeah.
future as well, right? So the second one for me is empathy, and hence we stay very close to our leaders to make sure that whenever a conversation comes through, which you already know is going to get difficult, let's not just shut a blind eye to it, and let's just not shut a door onto it, but let's be absolutely open and be authentic when we go into those conversations.
Yeah, right. Because I think it's the high time where the leadership and the employees come together and align on, the requirement. And it's to be open, to be frank, instead of holding up the emotions and, bringing it out at some other place. And nowadays resigning is too easy for, employees, I have noticed, because they don't want to talk. And sometimes they say that it's no point, going and talking to the leadership. So I think it's a high time that both the parties align together and talk. I think communication is the key. We always say that.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right, Richa. And what we focus a lot on is around building a lot of psychological safety. So there is the model by Patrick Lencioni, which talks about 5 layers of building high-performing teams. And the basic starting point in that is trust and psychological safety. In the absence of a work organization where employees don't feel free to go and speak up to someone else, and they don't have faith or trust in the system or the organization, you can't build on anything else. And hence, it's very important to get the foundation right.
Yeah, rightly said. And what is your point of view, adding on this question, what is of your point of view on the work visibility and the high performer visibility? So there are two words which, which is the like important topic in corporate. So what is your point of view on this?
This is a topic which I am extremely passionate about. So we can talk about this for at least 1 hour. Um, if we were to talk about just the word visibility, of late there has been a lot of negative connotation to that word itself. And honestly, I look at visibility as a very positive thing in one's career. At least in mine, it has really helped me. And I would love to challenge our own, myths and biases around the word visibility itself. There's nothing wrong about it, right? When we look at a typical team, there might be one team member who is, um, standing right at front of the door if there is a senior leadership visit, right? While the others are standing behind. There will be one team member who is the most talkative over a team dinner. There will be somebody who always raises the hand or volunteers to take up additional projects. There's somebody who will always speak up on behalf of the other team, right? So we all know that one team member in every team who goes a little bit extra and is more visible than the rest of them.
Yeah.
But guess what? Guess who gets the promotion? Guess who gets the next big thing? It is that one person. And why? Because that person was being seen, and not for any negative reason, for the right reasons. Does that mean that the others in the team who are still very much there, who are also high performers, are not valued? No, they are extremely valued as well. And we need to take as much care of them as well. And the easiest way for me to explain this, Richa, is if you take the example of the Indian Army. I come from an army background, and that's why it becomes very easy for me. So typically, when we look at the news and we talk about any army personnel, right? We always talk about the fighting soldiers, the foot soldiers, who are actually there in difficult situations, who are there front ending, leading these contingents and regiments, and actually physically fighting and out there. We speak about them. But there is an army of people who's also working in the background to
Yeah.
enable that one person
Yes, you're
by
right.
giving
Yes.
the person the right arms, ammunition, information, food, rations, strategy, all of that. There is a massive group of people who is working on all of that. Does that mean they are not performers? Of course, they're performers. But it is the person who's visible who's actually the one that is differentiated. I'll put this back a little bit into the corporate context and how it has worked for me. I have always worked through something called a personal development plan, where I have laid out very clearly what my career ambition has been. And it requires a lot of self awareness, and it requires a lot of work to finally put down in very simple terms, in terms of saying, these are my top two strengths, and these are the top two areas where I would really like to develop on. And if I develop on these two areas, I would like to progress in XYZ direction and I want to take this on. So while I do that exercise, I don't just keep it with me, I also share it with the stakeholders, with my leaders, with my peers. And then I make it known that this is my career ambition and this is my call for help. Either you give me feedback, which helps me enable my career, or you create the right forums and let me know what is it that I need to do. And I can tell you that I have actually been tested through very difficult projects, through very
Okay.
difficult assignments to say, okay, Isha, you want that next big job. Let's see if you can do this. And I have been through that. And I really appreciate my leaders and mentors who've tested me in those kind of, pressure situations, because that has taught me whether my development plan is actually working or not. So I have taken the fate of my career in my own hands versus that being in anybody else's hands. So my plea around visibility is that let's start creating the right forums. Let's start giving the right opportunities for people to shine. And visibility is also often seen, or it is linked to personality types, because people say that, if you're an introvert, then you may not lean in so much and hence you're not as visible. So let's help them. Let's coach those colleagues who may genuinely be struggling with a personality type, but also let's not assume that somebody is not being visible only because of their personality. So let's take that bias away. And the last point around this, Richa, is that the how you become visible will always be more important than the visibility itself. And what I mean by that is let's not work on our visibility by stepping on someone else's shoes, by taking credit from someone else, by
Yes.
cheating someone else, by coming in the limelight only for the limelight. Because even those behaviors will show up very soon and they will not last that long. So, visibility needs attention, but it needs to be done in the right way, in a professional way, and your quality of work should be speaking for your own visibility.
Rightly said. And I'm hoping with our podcast and the answers and the explanations which you have given, I am sure that employees out there and our audience out there, when they will watch our podcast, they will understand how important it is to speak up for yourself. Uh, to If you want a visibility, you need to take up the stand for yourself and speak up and go with your data, and that's how you will grow. Being introvert, sitting back and waiting for the opportunity will not is not going to knock your door. You have to open the door and you have to make your space.
Absolutely.
So Isha, so the next question I want to ask about a very famous word which is common, that getting into dream company.
Uh,
So, what is the story behind getting into dream company, and what is a lie which you think we are telling to young professionals who want to be a part of this entire setup?
Okay. Ah, dream company. You take me back to my college time, Richa, right? So almost about 19 to 20 years back now, when we were in college, and I can still imagine me, sitting in the auditorium, looking at all these companies walk in and looking at them and saying, "Oh, that's a dream company. That's a dream company," right? So that was the environment which is there, in MBA colleges, and it was there then. It's also there now. But what has evolved significantly over a period of time is the definition of dream companies. Back then, when we looked at dream companies, we used to talk about the big fours, the big four consulting, for example. We used to look at the top IT companies. We used to look at American companies. That was a big thing at that point in time. We used to look at top manufacturing FMCGs as dream companies. And what are some of the parameters that we associated to when we said that this is a dream company? It was either the size of these organizations, and when I say size, it could be both the revenue, uh, the presence, the number of employees, and also the brand to a large extent. And those were some of the parameters when we looked at these organizations and said, this is a dream company. And what has changed over the years is that we are also now looking at a lot of startups, and some startups which are now very successful, tech organizations, but also some of the small startups which could also be the dream companies, and those specifically who are funded very well, right? So we look at those parameters as well. What we don't talk about enough when we look at dream companies is the work culture. And work culture is something which is a combination of everything else. It's a combination of the company's values, of the leadership principles, of the HR policies, HR practices. So I think we don't talk enough about the culture of an organization, which is what makes that organization a dream company. I can tell you, I started my journey with Satyam, And Satyam Computers at that point in time was a dream company.
Yes.
And we did join the organization, and we joined as a batch of management trainees who walked in with the twinkle in our eyes. First job, first big organization. We went through our training and induction, and very quickly, the big news came, and it was one of the biggest corporate frauds in the history. Was our dream shattered? Maybe yes, it was. As management trainees who entered at that point in time in this organization, maybe our dream was shattered. But does that take away from the fact that that organization was not a dream company? In my mind, it still is. It still is a dream company. And the reason why I say that is because of, for whatever months that I worked there, it's got one of the best work cultures that I have seen. Very professionally run organization, extremely mature systems and processes. So it certainly makes Satyam a dream company even now. So my plea to young professionals and also to some of the seniors who are now coaching our young professionals is to help them understand that the definition of a dream company has also evolved. And Richa, what is a dream company for me may not be a dream company for you. I might value flexibility in an organization. I may like to work in an organization which offers a hybrid model, but maybe you don't. Maybe you are the kind of person who likes to be in office every day and interact with the colleagues and be out there every day. Maybe
Yeah.
I value a challenging assignment, but somebody else values more salary, and nothing wrong in that. Maybe someone else values a better title. So, a dream company is also changing, and the definition also changes from one person to another in terms of what we look for as individuals in our careers. And hence, my plea to everyone is that let's not define someone else's dream. It's my dream company. So, let me be in control of what my dream company is. At the best, we can help the young professionals by making the right choices, by helping them make the right choices, by supporting them with the right information. But let's not define someone else's dream based on a particular definition.
So on this answer of yours, I want to ask that when a employee enters the industry or a particular XYZ company with lot of hope and expectation, and till the time they are in the training phase and they go live, for the project, everything goes very smoothly, and suddenly there is a 360-degree change which happens. So is it because the expectation there, or the cultural setup, or the work style there is given all of a sudden, or is it like, vice versa, from the employee side they are not able to adapt, and that's how the drift starts happening, and then they say that no, this was my dream company maybe, or I wanted to be a part of this company, but now suddenly a hatred word maybe
Yes,
arises.
yeah,
Yeah, so because I have seen these situations, so what is your
yeah.
say on this?
You're absolutely right, Richa. So typically, when there is a new colleague that joins in, the critical period is the first 90 days, right? We also know the very famous book around that. And that period is extremely critical in the way that the employee actually experiences the organization. And more than anyone else, it is the peers and it is the organization who have a responsibility in showing the real side of the organization,
Yeah.
right? And it's very important. Again, I go back to authenticity. If there is somebody who's new who's joined in, there could be two type of peers and colleagues who approach a training conversation or an induction conversation. There could be one colleague, and I'm taking extreme situations here. There could be one colleague who actually hides all of the negative stuff and gives out all of the good stuff, right? To say that, oh, we have a great team and you will be supported by XYZ. and it's a great culture, and we have a very relaxed policy system, etc. So they try and hype it and give a very positive side of the story. On the other hand, there could be another colleague who was actually himself maybe in a situation which was not a very pleasant one and maybe a negative one, who could give all of the negative feed into this new joining, right? So there could be some very extreme situations. What we need is somebody to give the honest and right, authentic training and onboarding to new colleagues. And hence, I say it is the responsibility of the team members, the peers, and the colleagues to give out the right information and the most authentic information about the teams. Because the tactical part of your training and onboarding, right, that can be something which can be taught. What you need to do on the job, that is something which can be taught on a piece of paper. But a new joiner picks up a lot around the work culture in the first 90 days of their joining. And that's where all of us, whether it's the team members, whether it is the immediate leader who has a massive responsibility here, or it is the HR professionals as well, they are responsible to make sure that in 90 days you show the employee the right picture and the correct picture of the organization so that the reality does not look very different when they finally go back into their full time jobs. So it
Yeah.
has to be absolutely consistent.
I want to ask the last question about your journey on all this experience which you have shared, your wonderful stories, which is definitely encouraging. Any situation where you felt and thought that you won't be able to succeed or give your 100% delivery, and you thought that no, I won't be able to do it, but at last you could do it, and it was an amazing experience for you. So any story about it?
Yeah, there are lots. There are lots of such stories. And at the end of the day, we all are humans. And we all have been in situations where there is a lot of self doubt. And at that
Yes.
point in time, all you need is somebody to tap on your shoulder and say, listen, you can do it. I have the faith in you and you can do it. So I was very fortunate enough in my life and early on to work with some leaders and with some mentors. I'm still in touch with most of them who gave me that faith and that confidence to say that I think you can do it. And then I only needed to hear that. And then I made sure that I went all out and I trusted myself and I delivered whatever that I had to. The most recent example that comes to my mind, Richa, is the one in which I'm in right now. So the crisis which is going on, across the Middle East, it's one of the biggest and the most complex crisis that we have seen from a geopolitical standpoint. It has an impact not just on human lives, but also on the workplace, also on business. It touches upon each one of us in very different ways. Now, I've done an MBA with a specialization in HR. I could have done a degree or a diploma in crisis management as well. But was there any course or any degree which would have taught me what are some of the principles that I need to apply in this situation? There isn't. There is absolutely none. And then you need to think of what is it that you stand for and what are your principles, and you apply those. One of my mentors early on, he used to talk about a book called a brand called You, and that has still stuck with me for the last 20 years. So I have been able to develop a brand for myself, and I do know what are some of the things that Isha stands for and why there is a lot of trust and credibility which is there for me to take on some of the challenging tasks and the challenging projects which may come up. So I gave you an example of the current crisis, but I also look at COVID-19, by the way, as one of them, right? It changed the definition for HR professionals. It absolutely changed the way our roles and responsibilities have evolved. And these situations are exactly where we get tested as professionals and we show up very differently. And all of this, Richa, I go back to the first question which you asked me, which was about what are some of those leadership lessons. So, as long as you stay consistent in applying those principles, you can never be wrong. So, I will not say that one has walked out of situations winning or losing. I don't approach situations as a need to win, but for me, it's always about doing the right thing. And as long as I know that I'm doing the right thing, in my mind, I'm winning and I'm succeeding.
Thank you so much, Esha, for your wonderful stories. You have shared your journey with us and a lot of things which we have discussed. I'm sure that our audience will listen to our podcast and will definitely learn and utilize in their daily life, either personal or professional. So, any closing statement you want to give before we wrap up for today?
So, Richa, my closing statement is very closely linked to what your podcast stands for, which is being bold and being courageous. It has worked for me, and I advise a lot of colleagues out there to speak up, to challenge the status quo, but make sure that while you do that, you're doing the right thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Isha, once again, and rightly said. And I'm sure we will bring a change within the industry, and we are giving much to the society via this podcast. And definitely, we will have more podcast with you soon in the near future. Till the time, stay tuned for Noble by Richa.